Welcome to the last session of this conference today. We have 3 more presentations to go. And to start with, it's Sigridur Thormodsdottir, who will speak about how to maintain competitive advantages is linked to image building and sustainability. Please.
Good afternoon. First, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me here to give a presentation. Since I have the microphone, I really have to use the opportunity to also congratulate all the project for a fantastic work you have been doing. And it has been very interesting to see the progress from when this marine program started in 2000 and, well, 2 years ago, yeah. And I really would like to thank you, use the opportunity to thank you for your effort. And I think this is all about people, and you have really shown that Nordic cooperation is creating value. So thanks. It has been very nice to see. Based on all the facts that have been presented here earlier today, we talk about food security, green growth and sustainability. We in the Innovation Norway, we wanted to look into the possibilities and maybe the role of sustainable Norwegian marine solutions. And even though I take the perspective of Norwegian, I think you can apply that to the Nordics. My previous work was for the Nordic Innovation, but now I'm only working with the Norwegian, so I have to move the focus to the national from the Nordic. But anyway, I always bear in mind the Nordic as a region in the global context. Just, I would like to start to give you some background for our work, and then go and tell you a little bit about a study or a mapping analysis we did on Norwegian suppliers of sustainable marine solutions. And then finally give you my ideas on how I see we can further go on in the Nordic context. Competitive marine sector, we think that it's very important to consider the reputation of the Norwegian or the Nordic marine sector. There is, I think, a quite good reputation, but this is something that we have to work on, and this is not, we have to maintain it, and we have to. For example, I think it's very important to consider the issues of sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability, it's very important to include all these 3 dimensions: the social, the economical, and the environmental sustainability. And if we are going to have or maintain the reputation of the marine sector in the Nordic countries or in Norway, we have to look at this and include it in our work. For example, the social dimension here is, like our first speaker today mentioned, there is also this social aspects which is very important to consider when we are developing the sector. We can say that the social issues are also very important in the Nordic countries. This is something like on the political arena. We can say in Norway, the regional development is very much linked to the development of the sector, and I think this discussions is also in here in Iceland. And I just, and there is no right answer how, and you know, how we are going to fulfill this social, but we have to think about it. Also the economical. I think the bottom line has to be blue at the end, and I really liked Thorgeir. He was leading work in Norway. It was a report when they were talking about the Norwegian as a knowledge-based economy, and he said that blue food to blue numbers, and I really think that is something that we have to bear in mind, that the marine sector has to be competitive and it has to be with good economical results. And then, of course, the environmental aspect. When we talk about the marine sector, we consider it very important not only to focus on the seafood. We have to see or look at the whole value chain, and it's even fishery management is also a very important factor here. Even though usually we don't define it as part of the value chain, but this is the start and it's very important. And we, in Innovation Norway, we thought that, okay, if we are going to work and look at the competitiveness of the seafood sector, we have to have a very broad approach to the whole value chain. And we have to look at the flow of raw material, not only focusing on the fish itself, it has also to be considered a flow of raw material, not rest or waste, but it is also a very valuable flow of raw material, which is like bone or rest from the fish industry. So we say, okay, we have to take the whole fish and we have to utilize it 100%, like Thor was mentioning in his presentation, the 100% club, which I think is a very good idea. That means that we need to take the value chain of the seafood production, and then we have to look at the flow for byproducts, both high value or low value. We can say that the dried head, caught head is maybe of low value. It's a high value, but it's not very technical based. And then we have also ingredients in form of oil and proteins. But what we wanted to look extremely or extra on is that the competitiveness is very related to the efficiency and the quality. And then we have to look into the suppliers of the technology and the services throughout the whole value chain, because they are very important. So we saw the opportunities for the marine sector as for the seafood, and then we are more looking into the need for some kind of branding or of the seafood products in Norway. And I think this is also very relevant for the seafood sector in the Nordic region. If you look, you know, somebody think that Asia, they are producing a lot, both in agriculture and in fisheries. And maybe we get a little bit scared when we see the numbers and, you know, how it looks like there, and, you know, how are we going to compete with that? I think it's very important that we consider that maybe we are also on the crossroad in that terms, that we need to build a stronger brand for our fishery sectors. Also, there are a lot of opportunities in this byproducts, both new products and new segments that we can look into. And then finally, the suppliers of sustainable marine solutions. And I think also here we have to look into, when we talk about solution, it has to be holistic solution. We can't go on with presenting in the global context bits and pieces into the value chain. I think we have to look more into holistic solution solving issues. And that means that we have to combine the technology we have and create services and include the competence we have in the region or in Norway to the development of these sustainable marine solutions. And for our point of view, we are both looking at fisheries and aquaculture. And I just wanted to show this because this really, in a very good way, show how big really Asia, for example, is. And as I said, I understand that people get scared, but I don't think we should be scared. It's only showing there are opportunities, both considering seafood products and also for the suppliers, given the fact that we have to respect the situation and what the development in the sectors in, for example, in Asia needs. The reason why we looked into the supply sector specifically was that in Norway there are several reports pointing out the importance of the suppliers. And you have to bear in mind that it's not only technology suppliers, it's also services and competence. And for example, fishery management is a competence that we have here in the Nordic area. One of the studies are focusing on the ripple effect. And I think really when we talk about also the image of the seafood sector as such, that we should be much more much better in presenting the seafood sector as a much larger sector and point out the ripple effect and how it is really changing maybe. You know, in the old days, you know, everything was happening on the Harpa and the life there, and the jobs are really changing from it was in the old days in what it is today, and it requires a totally different competence. So I think we need to broaden the perspective when we talk about seafood and the seafood industry to really go and talk about the marine sector or whatever word we want to use for that. And also in there was a report about you know, the value of the marine sector and the suppliers. They are supposed to have play a major role in the future to 2050. And maybe the fact that has been shown that the supply sector is one of the main drivers for innovation in the seafood sector brought us also to look more into this. That the supply sector has really been driving the efficiency issues in the seafood value chain, and that is very much technology issues that has maintained the competitiveness of the seafood sector in Norway and in the Nordics, both related to efficiency and quality. We also see that there is a lot of interest from other regions or countries concerning technology and competence and services related to the value chain. And what we did was that we looked at the Asian market based on the fact that there is a huge change probably going to be in the next years there, to look and specifically in Asia and see how and what we could, you know, how we should approach that potential. And we wanted also to bring that knowledge also to Norway. And then to the study. We did a mapping of market opportunities in Asia, and we focused on the suppliers of sustainable marine solutions, and we included fishery and aquaculture and also processing of byproducts and competence. I'm not going to present the results from that analysis because I think Ambakar, he has really given us the number and the picture, but I'm going to tell you about the marine supply sector in Norway. Only this is very like a very helicopter view of the conclusions, and I think that is what is most important is that we found in our analysis in or mapping analysis in Asia that there is no one size fit all. It's not like you can develop something and then you go out and sell that. You have to adjust. And you can see here the general challenges. This is the same that Abakar was mentioning to this morning. But it really emphasizes also the need for the holistic solutions, and that was the main message here. And another thing is that because of the competence level, it also indicates that especially that maybe we should be better in making or capitalize, if you can use that word, on knowledge as such. The Norwegian suppliers, and as I say, it might apply also to other countries in the Nordic region, is that the marine supply sector is fragmented. There is no like industry association, it's covering the whole. You have quite a strong historic for the maritime sector, but if you look at the supply sector that is supplying to the aquaculture industry, it's very fragmented, and then it's very difficult to get in contact with the companies if you want to approach them and you want to work with them, maybe towards international markets. It's very hard to get in contact and also to know or have a dialogue in order to find out what they need and how we can work with them. On average, there are small companies, and there is a lack of capacity and competence on the market, on development of market-oriented strategies, etc. Of course, there are exceptions from that. There are strong companies, but on average and general, they are small. And if you look at the value chain of fisheries, as I say, the maritime sector in Norway is strong with long traditions for export. So they have this, there is a strength there. And what is also identifies these suppliers, so they are quite big, and they are usually bigger than a customer. So the power in negotiation is that they are big and the buyer is smaller, so they are not pressed so much on prices as such. There are several suppliers in the fisheries, for example, producing harvesting gears like nets and things like that, and they are supplying custom-made solutions. When you look at the value chain of aquaculture, you can say that, and you can say also in the fisheries and the maritime, often the companies are not only supplying to the fishery sector, they have other sectors also, so they are relying on different, but in the aquaculture sector, you have many suppliers that are only supplying to the aquaculture sector, so they don't have the diversity, and they are more dependent on the big buyers in the aquaculture sector, and usually they are smaller than the buyers. For example, the big aquaculture companies, they are much larger than these small companies, and there are very small margins in the supply sector for aquaculture. This is something that is very important to consider, because if you say that they are driving important driving force for the innovations and the efficiency, you can't have them pressed too much, because they can't have this role without support. The value chain of processing, and that is, you can say, compared, for example, to Iceland, the processing suppliers here in Iceland, they are known. We don't have so much processing suppliers in Norway. there may be few companies, but that is not very strong ones. And they are also secondary suppliers. They are not only supplying to the fishery value chain, but also maybe to meat or other chains. And then the suppliers of competence. It was also a Nordic study that showed that the Nordic countries are not very good on capitalizing on knowledge, and I think that is also relevant for the competence groups or organizations and institutes in the seafood or in the marine sector. So this is something also that we should look into, how we can embed the competence and the knowledge in our products. So the overall conclusion is, yes, there are opportunities in Asia. I think that is an understatement to say it isn't. And there is relevant technology and competence in Norway, that's no doubt about that. But the challenges for the Norwegian suppliers are they need to cooperate, need to be to some extent some consolidation or coordination. And because if they go to the international market, they are usually too small. And now we are working with the Norwegian Industry Federation and trying to create an active platform for example, the suppliers for the aquaculture, which I think is a very, very important step. Another issue is really how to package this for the Asian market, for example, or another market. I was in Indonesia, and I was visiting an aquaculture farm there, and I was seeing they were using this cages, and we asked, are these cages from Norway now? They were from China. Of course, they are much cheaper. So the thing is, it's because the suppliers, they're really afraid of that things will be like copying, taken away from them. That's why they are holding the projects, that they don't want to go international because it's so easy to copy. But the thing is, what they say in Indonesia, it's easy for us to buy a cheaper cage in China, but we don't know how to culture in cages. That means that when we are creating the business model, we have to sell the competence. And by the way, we have the cages as such. So you have to turn a little bit around what the product is in our head, and how to adjust that to the needs in the market. So we have to be better in cooperation and do some kind of a consolidation and innovate in the business model. Another thing is cultural differences. There are several experiences in Norway. When they go out, they are known, have a reputation to be very good, very high quality, a lot of competence, and they come, they implement and leave, and you have the 7 or 8 hours time differences. So when the customer needs to call and get some information or help, nobody is answering the phone in Norway. So there are a lot of issues like that. Yes, it's not enough to deliver the product or the technology as such. You need to follow up, and you have to design the services that has to be come together with technology. Also, again, I want to point out the capacity and competence, because in many cases the companies are small. And also identify the right countries and partners. This is, international or global, this is a very, very large. And it's not in all areas that you can say that you can apply the technology or competence. You have to identify the right countries. You might need to say, for example, for the aquaculture, identify the species that you should focus on. Maybe not on countries, but on species. I say, what kind of species is it the easiest way to transfer the knowledge we have from aquaculture in Norway to Asia, instead of take the whole spectrum. And I think Abakar, he was mentioning some kind of aquaculture like groups or clusters that could be company-based. And I think that is one thing that could be very interesting as an arena for companies to get in contact with, for example, Asian companies, and really try out, for example, if you identified that this species is something that we really should go for. It is finfish, for example. We are going for marine or culture in sea, and then requiring feed and disease issues. Then it's something that we should really look into and do it together in some kind of clusters, business-to-business cooperation with the competence groups. And of course, there is also question about funding. And there we think we as a funding agency for innovation and internationalization, that we can play a role. A little bit from a Nordic perspective. If we take the supply sector, I think we need to learn more about the supply sector in the Nordic region. We have to identify the strongholds in the different countries. If we are going to create the holistic solutions, I think, for example, that Iceland is very good in processing, and you need the processing as a part of the value chain. And we saw the overall conclusion from Asia is that you need a change, the whole value chain as such. And I think also that we need also to learn more about the consumer and the market in Asia, also in that respect, what kind of species that we would like to focus on in our work. I think also we need to look more in depth, where we should put the focus, because this is so huge. And also, I think this issues about innovation in the business model is extremely important. I think also this is something that we could also do on a Nordic perspective. And also, I know that there are work ongoing regarding how to approach, for example, emerging markets. And I think this is something especially related to the supply sector, important for us as a funding agency that we really want to support internationalization. Yes, and I think even though I have only pointed out or taken the supply sector as such, there is also a huge opportunity for the seafood, and not forget that. And we consider both aquaculture and fisheries as important, because many of the Asian countries, even though the fishery has stagnated, they are not yet there that they have done the technology or implemented the technology and the know-how to make maximal economical gain of the resource they have, as we have here. So there is also a lot of opportunities to look into that. So I think definitely it's a very exciting area, but and we think that it's very important to look at the seafood sector or the marine sector as the whole from the beginning. Yeah, that was for today.